Hi everyone, I am Dr. Lynn Wagner and you are listening to The Wealthy Life. This is the sleep series and today's video is about sleep trackers, otherwise known as wearables. So you've all heard of Apple Watches, and if you have one, you have probably noticed that it does some health data, tracks some health stats. There's also other great devices like the Garmin watch, the Oura ring, the Whoop band, but what we're going to talk about is specifically what these things track and how you can use them to make your life healthier and feel better. At Wagner Integrative Health, our favorite trackers are either the Oura ring or the Whoop band, and these things are changing all the time, so if I record this video in a year, there will probably be a new one, but for now it's the Oura ring or the Whoop band. I personally bought an Oura ring a couple of years ago. I wore it religiously for at least 6 months, and it gave me great data, and it actually led me to make some specific changes in my life that helped me to feel better and be healthier. I did find after a while that I was waking up every morning, and the first thing I would do is pull up my phone, check my sleep score, and I found that sometimes if I had a bad sleep score or a poor readiness score, it would kind of put me in a down mood and it would make me go, oh, I'm not gonna have a great day today. So I decided to stop wearing it, and now I only wear it periodically if I'm not feeling well or if I just want to check in on my health stats, and then I put it in the drawer away for a while and just live my life. You can choose however you want to wear it, but I would say they are great devices. They give you great data, but sometimes you can get maybe over obsessive about it. Let's talk about first what these things actually track, because that's the most important thing. So these devices will track your sleep stages, which is how much time you spend in light, deep, and REM sleep. We'll talk about sleep stages in another video in this series, but those are very, very important metrics to look at. It'll look at sleep duration and efficiency. So how long are you in bed versus how long are you actually sleeping? I'm always surprised, or I'm not surprised, but patients will say, I just don't feel well, I feel tired. They'll start wearing a sleep tracker. They'll be in bed for 10 hours a night, but they're only getting 6 hours of sleep, either because they're watching TV or their dogs are interrupting them, or they're restless, things like that. So that's really important data. They're going to track your sleep latency, and basically that means how long does it take you to fall asleep? Because if you're falling asleep within seconds after your head hits the pillow, that's a sign that your body is overtired. Whereas if it's taking you 30 to 60 minutes to fall asleep, that's a sign of poor sleep, and maybe you have too much anxiety during the day, or maybe you're drinking coffee too late into the evening, things that you can actually change. These devices are going to look at sleep disturbances. So how often are you waking up throughout the night? It's really amazing. Sometimes people will say, I get eight restful hours of sleep a night, and then you look at their sleep tracker and they're waking up every 20 minutes and they just don't remember it. And those are things you can change. So that's cool data. It's going to look at sleep consistency. So sleep consistency is really boring because it's how regular is your sleep schedule. Are you going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time? And I like to stay up later on the weekends, so having sleep consistency sometimes isn't the most fun thing, but the fact is it is going to be healthier if you try to stick to a tighter sleep-wake schedule. They're going to look at your heart rate. They're going to look at your heart rate variability, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And they're going to some of these devices will actually look at your respiratory rate, which is how fast you're breathing, your pulse ox, which is how much oxygen you have in your blood. They're going to look at temperature trends, which if you're someone who wants to track your cycle, or if you want a notification that you're getting sick, it's going to look at all that health data that can be so powerful. And then all these things, all this data that I just talked about will get rolled into a score that's called a sleep score, and some of these devices will give you a readiness score. The sleep score is basically how good of quality sleep did you have. The readiness score combines all the data to say how ready is your body to face the day. Should you do a hard workout today? Should you have a rest day? Might you need a nap? Do you need to get more sleep the following night? So it's really cool to use those scores. And if you're getting high scores like 90s, you really don't need to do anything else. But if you're getting 50s, 60s, 70s, even 80s for your scores, that's when you want to start digging into the data to see what you can change in your lifestyle to make your sleep scores better. Let's talk about heart rate variability a little bit. So heart rate variability is the variation between each heartbeat. You would think that the heart beats very, very rhythmically, and it does, but there's this tiny bit of variation in between each heartbeat. And the interesting thing about that is the more variation you have, so the higher your heart rate variability, the healthier your nervous system is. And it has to do with your autonomic nervous system, which is that part of your nervous system that dictates how much time you spend in fight or flight versus rest and digest. And as we all know, it's good to have enough time in that rest and digest state, but if your heart rate variability is lower, it's a really strong sign that you're not. And then you can make changes to your lifestyle to try to improve it. Specifically, what lowers heart rate variability? So things like alcohol, especially late in the evening, is proven to lower heart rate variability. Poor sleep or late nights, so if you are burning the candle on both ends many nights in a row, it's going to lower your heart rate variability. overtraining. So if you're training for a race or an Ironman, you're going to wear your body down and your heart rate variability is going to go lower. If you're sick, if you have an illness or an infection, it'll lower your heart rate variability. If you have mental stress, which we all do, heavy late meals at night. So these are all things that will lower it. And then as you can imagine, if you're trying to increase your heart rate variability, you're going to want to do things like get better sleep, obviously. Incorporate meditation or breath work into your daily life. Do things like cold exposure or sauna, which you know I love, and I have specifically seen it improve my own heart rate variability. Hydrate yourself, eat healthy, do other stress resiliency practices, spend time in nature. So all those things that are part of a natural, healthy lifestyle will also raise your heart rate variability. Couple things to know about these things that we're talking about. So all these metrics that your wearable is tracking and your heart rate variability, these things will change with age. So you're not going to have the same stats as someone who is 10 years old. And that's pretty obvious, but you don't want to fixate on your numbers. So let's say you're someone, you get your tracker, you look at average heart rate variability and yours is always low. It doesn't mean you're unhealthy. If you feel well, if your body is healthy and strong, you might just have a naturally lower heart rate variability. So you don't want to fixate on that. What you want to look for is changes. So if you're wearing your device and you always have this certain heart rate variability, and then all of a sudden it dumps, it goes really, really low, that's when you want to look in and be like, okay, what changed? Did I overtrain? Did I not get enough sleep? Did I drink too much wine the night before? And then you can say, okay, now I understand why it's going down, and I can change that habit in my lifestyle to make it better. But you don't want to fixate on the score if it's not changing. So use it as a guide, not a judge. Key metrics to watch, like I said, are the sleep stages, so light, deep, and REM sleep. Sleep latency, how long does it take you to fall asleep? Sleep efficiency, how much sleep do you get versus how much time are you actually in bed? How restless are you? How often are you waking up? And then that heart rate variability key is really, really important. So what you want to do is look for nightly trends, look for things in your lifestyle that are messing up your nightly trends, and then look at your lifestyle and say, okay, I'm going to make these changes to make these stats better. There's going to be a cool handout in the show notes that you can download that can help you use this data. And if you can't figure it out, that's when you want to come and see someone like us at Wagner Integrative Health, someone who understands the whole picture, can look at all of your labs and look at your lifestyle and say, okay, I understand why this isn't as good as it could be. Let's make these changes, and you will see great results with that. So with that being said, think about if you want to get a sleep tracker. If you're someone who's into health and wellness, it's probably a good idea. Use the data, try to improve your sleep scores. If you can't improve them on your own, see someone like us to get some health, and always use it as a tool, not a judge. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.